Here's a question that's been keeping me up at night. We have more customer service technology than ever before. Chatbots, AI assistants, CRM systems that can track every interaction. So why does it feel like customer experience is getting worse? You know what I'm talking about. You call a company and get bounced between two or three different departments. Each one you repeat your story, you try to cancel a subscription, and you're hit with a maze of retention specialists designed to frustrate you into giving up. You walk into a store where staff can't access the same information you can see on their website. We're drowning in technology, but we're losing the human touch. And if you're a small business owner listening to us, you might be thinking, great, there's another problem I can't solve because I don't have $1 million tech budget. But what if I told you that's exactly backwards? What if I told you being small is actually your secret weapon in customer service game? I'm Cody Johnston. This is the Weird Canadian, where we take enterprise level strategies and make them work for real entrepreneurs. Today, I'm talking with Abisola. Sorry, I didn't ask your name before I started. Abisola Fagbiye,
Fagbiye.
a customer experience service strategist who worked everywhere from construction sites to the United Nations. And she's going to flip everything you think you know about competing with the big guys. Abisola, the philosophy that is both simple and revolutionary. Customer experience isn't the job of your customer service team, it's everyone's job. And she's going to show us why that mindset, combined with your natural small business advantages, might just be the competitive edge you've been looking for. So grab your coffee and let's dive into why the future belongs to businesses that remember how to be human. Thank you for coming on. I do want to get into a little bit of the start. How did you go from working in construction to being a world-renowned CX strategist?
Okay, so my story is it's a bit conventional around people who are in CS. It's not sort of an industry. It cuts across multiple industries. It's sort of like in this multiple space. So I did start CS in construction. I do have a first degree in real estate management. But in all of my interactions, in all of my work, has always been customer facing. So, I mean, customers have always been the center. And I have a career that spans just about a decade. But consciously, about 6 years ago, I looked at what am I doing? This is a bit more than customer support. This is a bit more than just picking up the phone to say, trying to resolve some issues. So I kind of like went to research to see what exactly this is and discovered there is a thing called customer experience. And then, just started exploring that, seeing how do I integrate that knowledge into the work that I'm doing. So multiple roles, different nomenclatures around what exactly it is I'm dealing with customers. But essentially, I've always
Yeah, I'm just starting to realize that customers are who you're catering to, and it's best to get their information. They enlighten you so much. As part of my government background, I did a lot of user research, which I found enlightening, and just how different the people that on the other side of the screen use your application. Then I can imagine that it gets even more in depth when you're actually having those real human connections with the companies. You said that you've noticed that successful organizations were obsessed with people. Was there a specific moment where that light bulb went off? Light bulb went off?
I think so, yes. In the previous organization I was in, and interestingly where I am right now, the we kind of sort of built there was a system around the people that worked. And it wasn't so much as the people who stayed, it was more or less the people who left. They I saw people return, which was very new. I mean, you leave a company, you don't go back. Like, yeah, I mean, that was a wonderful couple of years or whatever time you've been there. But then that's it. But then you see people return. And that was very different from what I'd heard or what I was used to around people coming back. Also, people were very, very happy to be associated with business, whether you see them somewhere, say at an exhibition or things like that, they're always very happy to welcome you, things like that. So I found that very interesting. And that's pride in that association kind of reflected in how people dealt with the customers. So you see that enthusiasm kind of just trickle out to the customers. So there was that connection between AX, which is the employee experience. So employees are enjoying their experience. Customers will most likely feel that love or feel that enthusiasm. Yes, you can now begin to build structure around that, systems and things like that in place. But you cannot build something around people who absolutely don't know what's there, and everything that they are doing is robotic, clock in, clock out, and there's no emotion to it. But when you're dealing with people who enjoy that space, who have some sort of vested interest, and it might not be, it doesn't have to be stocks. Vested interest could just be, I enjoy working here, the community, the people, and things like that. It will reflect. And then when you now begin to create structures and systems, those structures will work because people have skin in the game. So there is that link between employee experience and customer experience. And you see that you will continue to improve your customer experience when employees work, when the EX actually works.
To put this into perspective for my audience, there's big talk around the tech world that you're creating a moat. You want your brand to stand for more than just your company. You want people to rally around it. You're creating a moat that engages with not only your company and serving that purpose, but also the community at large around that business or company. It's very. I want to ask, do you see that becoming a very prominent factor in business in the future?
I think it's here already. Very, it is gaining traction, right? It's gaining traction, and we're seeing that more and more. And just to reiterate, so put something in different terms, employees would always be first customers. The marketing needs to happen to them first, and then they would spread the word. And they would champion it in the most interesting and ingenious ways possible. So I think we are seeing that in some ways, and in some instances, some brands have really been able to create some sort of community. Not maybe not internally, but externally, where there is that association where you are proud and becomes a status symbol and things like that. Apple is its own perfect example. It's like it's where we want to be associated, even though right now it almost feels like we're building all our products ourselves and you have it to buy everything in pieces. But you know, there is that I'm proud to be associated with this.
Yeah, and that's what I hope my brand stands for as well. I hope people can be proud of what I'm trying to build and can come in and help everyone as well. I get a few comments here or there. I really would, just to my audience, I would really love any support or anything you have idea wise, because yeah, I want to support you guys. I want to showcase what you guys want, not just me. Even though I just love these conversations, I love getting into the nitty gritty of what I'm interested in. Do you think that a lot of that brand recognition is a byproduct of our social media, like TikTokification, where people are trying to engage more?
Social media, big dog, absolutely. We can't run away from that. It's the world we live in. There is that framing. There is also, I mean, the rise of influencer marketers and things like that, where there's the aesthetic movement, there's perception movement that is going on. All of those kind of things are framing a lot. And TikTok is it's going well with that. And then the kind of demographic that is on TikTok, where they are beginning to now come into those who have financial influence. And so they are gaining, purchasing power. They're obviously coming into the workforce. Yes, they are the younger ones, but then you have people who are, I mean, the Gen Zs are obviously in the workforce, the oldest of Gen Zs, 27, 28. So they are fully in the workforce. The younger part of that generation is just coming in. So they are also coming into economic power. So you're seeing a tide of people who can make a difference with their resources. And so they have the money, they have the time, because they might not be tied with family and things like that, for those kind of responsibilities. So they have a bit of time on their hands to create some sort of shift in the ecosystem. So whatever ecosystem that they're in. So TikTok is going wild with that. I mean, other platforms say like Facebook, Instagram. Facebook obviously is for much older people at the moment. Yes, but you need to see people creep back into that because of creator benefits that happen to exist on Facebook. But when you look at different platforms, whether it is TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, all of those have different demographics that exist in those spaces, but they are all championing kind of different causes. And each one in itself, some of them stand independently and some of them overlap. So you cannot ignore the presence of social media in pretty much anything you do it. Absolutely not. I mean, it will be it will be catastrophe for you to ignore that social media is existing and it is changing entirely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I also know of two apps that have popped up recently as beta trials that they're trying to get away from conventional social apps. They're actually paying their creators through tokenization of their content, so the creators actually own their content. So I'm hoping we'll get more to that eventually. Sorry, we kind of got off topic. Let's get back.
Okay,
to the
let's come back.
You have a philosophy of CX is everyone's job. How that's another thing to add to everybody's plate. How do you respond to the worry that oh, I have to do customer service on top of or customer experience on top of my job? How do you respond to that kind of rhetoric?
Interesting, there's a big controversy around why CM should be a woman's job. I've seen a bit of that on LinkedIn. Um, so this is controversial around this is not everyone's job. But in saying that it is everyone's job, we're not asking people to take on the role of customer support. That role that can't work. Roles exist for a reason. But the thing is, you must realize that whatever role you exist in, you must build with the lenses of the customer. And businesses exist for a reason. And the reason is the customer. And the customer is actually the one who uses those products, engages those services, eventually exchanges that for money. And that is how business move. Businesses obviously need to make a profit. So if whatever you're doing separates you from the customer, then there's a problem. So if you think about the multi-layered roles that exist within the business, whether it's products, whether IT, finance, HR, accounting, whatever, you begin to see that at the center of it all are customers. So why do we need a product person internally to obviously build products, right? Who will use those products? Customers, right? Why do we need a finance person? You want to obviously get your numbers in check, everything. But at the end of the day, we need to see whether we're making profits. Who will that point to? If customers are not buying, if we're not exchanging that, then right? So if you begin to look at every role, no matter what the role is, and if you also look at the industries that exist, whether you have industries that are even non-profits, the recipients of those, you can classify them as customers, right? Whatever industry you're in. So the customers exist at the center. And the analogy I have seen, and this is not me creating that analogy, is the symphony of music. Interestingly, last week, Sunday, I was at the service of a wind quartet, and it was the most beautiful thing. So there were 5 instruments, the flute, the trombone, the bassoon, all of that. And those 5 people, and then there's a conductor just kind of putting that together. And that one person right there is making sure that each sound that comes through, whether it's the clarinet or the flute, all of that comes together in the most beautiful harmony. So the CX person sits and stands in that capacity as a conductor. All of those different roles that exist within the space or within the business, whether it is products or IT or finance or the people who sit in the C-suite level, all of those people are all the instruments within that beautiful orchestra. And that CX person is the conductor. If one person goes out of tune, you will know. You hear that, you would hear it, right? So while we want to struggle in and talk about different technologies and, oh, this is not it, or we're not trying to put people in customer support, at the center are our customers, and we cannot ignore that fact. So we need someone who is the coordinator of that, making sure that the customers are enjoying their experience with you. But at the end of the day, we are impacted. Also, another analogy is the body. Right? Think of your human self. If you hit your little toe on the edge of something, you feel it in your brain. It hurts all the way from crown of your head to the sole of your feet, right? And it's just a little toe that you hit. It really shouldn't hurt everywhere, but then it does. Or you have a stomach ache, or you have your shoulder hurting. You can even spike a fever from something that's small, right? Because your entire body is connected. So when we think of who we are in a business and all of the roles that exist within a business, each part is as important as the other, right? And each part all connects and points to the ultimate person, which is the customer.
It reminds me of the days when I was working at Tim Hortons, and like I didn't like my job, but I still made sure the customer was happy. My regulars knew who I was. I knew who my regulars were. I tried to put in effort, and it very much seems like that's not a thing nowadays. Like people don't put in that effort. Do you think that? Do you have like an idea of where that fell off? Like where people stopped wanting to try their best even at the lowest grade?
I think we've not exhausted. I don't know why, but maybe we know why. There's so much happening. There is some sort of like a world fatigue. See the economy, people are juggling too many balls at the same time. So you're getting to work and you are exhausted. People are not in the right frame of mind. You know, good thing there is an increase in things like mental health awareness. So there is that consciousness of people's mental states when they come to work, whether coming to work is physical or not. So, when you can be remote, when you do need to clock in at a certain time, or whatever you deliver goes are, if you don't have to do any clocking and deliver based on time or project. But I think there is some sort of like a global fatigue that is affecting our outputs. Not sure what the what the remedy of that will be, but hopefully we come out of that and we're able to give 100 to whatever rules or services that we do offer.
I'm hoping actually one of the renowned stories that I'm getting across everybody I bring on has been that AI is going to allow us to be more human, to connect more deeply at a human connection level. I really hope we can get to that. That kind of leads us into the next topic I want to get into. We have all this tech for customer service, but customer experience is absolutely terrible. What are they doing wrong?
More tech is usually not important as an experience because more tech will mean that you have multiple siloed tools, and those tools could create some sort of data fragmentation where there is no handshake from one tool to the other. So you have more tech, more tools, and those tools exist. And so you have to do kind of like repeated handoffs from one to another tool. So we'll see that customers have to repeat context or have to repeat when they are transferred from one tool to another. And that tool, in some instances, could even be a person, right? So one person in one role hands over to another person because this is the person that will handle it. And you obviously have to go through that process again. So we're not seeing that more tech is creating better experiences. We're seeing that it's creating data fragmentation. And so we need tools to actually talk to each other. So we need to be able to see that I am transferred from one person to the next or from one tool to the next one. And the generic bit of information is things like my name, my age, just the basics, get that out of the way, right? Even the reason why I called or the reason why I'm reaching out, get that out of the way. And let's just go deep into sorting this out. And hopefully with the introduction of AI, I call it the elephant in the room, right? So with the introduction of AI, people are hoping and customers are hoping that their issues will be resolved faster. And the thing is, I don't think customers really care whether it's a human or an AI that solves it. So it's really, I need this resolved and I'm hoping it's going to be resolved. Or I need to engage this product or service and I'm hoping that it is smooth, whether it was a human that made it smooth or it was AI that made it smooth. It is irrelevant, right? Who made it smooth? So we're hoping that that introduction of AI kind of reduces the friction. So we want to see humans kind of create exceptional service. So we want to see humans make judgment calls. Yeah, I may not be able to make certain judgment calls, may not be able to get all context correctly at the moment because we're still in its early days. But we want to be able to see that with that introduction of AI, handles the routine basic stuff. Humans handle the relationship part of it. They handle AI obviously handling things like memory, right? So routine will be handled, taken care of. So you want to see things like relationships stay with human. You want to see loyalty stay with the human. But more tech has never been equal to better experiences.
Yeah, it's connecting that tech that really counts. Have you started to see some of these tech? I know your work with Microsoft. Have you started to see the progression? I wrote a paper
Okay.
actually on that topic about how we're going away from back end technology. It's just going to be agentic agents behind the scene doing everything. So we're going to have that expressive memory, I think, very shortly. I've actually been trying to apply that in a few of my applications. Thankfully, with the new ChatGPT agent builder, it's becoming easier than ever.
They released something yesterday that was phenomenal around the
Yeah,
chat.
I've started to
And
work
then
with it.
somebody wrote 1 million startups have gone down the drain just by that one.
Yep.
Okay, this is interesting.
But do you see any of that enterprise level tech coming in to kind of save the day?
Absolutely. I think that there's going to be so much happening so quickly. And we're already saying that, right? So much is happening every day and so quickly. And so the things we adopt, we can't adopt everything. That's the truth. Nobody in no business is going to adopt everything. You're going to take the bits that actually are relevant and you're going to look at and integrate that into your industry or solution or product, whatever makes it better, whatever makes it a bit more seamless, whatever also fits into the architecture that you have, because not everything will fit into your architecture. In some instances, you will need to do a complete overhaul of your current architecture and do a rebuild, right? So the more all of these things come out and come through, the more we see, yes, a bit of integration with the businesses that it is relevant to. But we're not going to see everything integrated into certain businesses or we're just going to see those parts that are relevant and then the others that are not. I mean, we can always just chop this out.
It's interesting to what is going to come. I took a beat when you said companies really need to start looking at their tech stack and refactoring it because the government needs to do that very badly. I worked on so many systems with legacy code, and I'm like, you want this new age feature? It is not possible unless I build the entire thing from scratch.
From
And they don't want to
scratch.
invest. Yeah, they don't want to invest that. And the data's good. That's the problem. The data is amazing and clean, sterilized. But getting a new application is like pulling an arm.
I think that happens with legacy businesses, with government agencies, because there's so much resting on it. So I understand why there will be some, if not a bit more than some, but a lot of resistance.
Yeah. But it gets into what I wanted to talk about a little bit more is the small business and why it might be a secret weapon. When you start working, you've worked from everything from a small startups to Fortune 500 companies. Can you tell me how a small business has an advantage right now?
Yes, people are being people and will continue to be people in small businesses. And people extend grace to small businesses. That's the grace that they don't extend to larger corporations. And you can check this. Your interaction with a mom and pop shop will be a lot more calmer and a lot more personal than your interaction with an enterprise business, because your expectations from an enterprise level business is extremely high, right? You want the best of the best. You want seamless. The things you want are you're taking them off. And anytime you hit a roadblock, you're upset. Excuse me, you should be upset. This is a business listed on the New York Stock Exchange. This is so you're thinking to yourself, like, why? But when you're dealing with a much smaller business, there's that empathy level of interaction that exists there. And so they can capitalize on that. So customers would often assume that small businesses are human and they're local. So they would kind of like tolerate minor slips. I mean, you obviously shouldn't take advantage of that, but they will tolerate minor slips, but they would expect it to be candid. They would expect recovery. Even when that happens, they would take on an apology if you extend one, things like
Yeah.
that. But corporates will face, low forgiveness. You're not ready to forgive these guys. Like, you know what? I'm going to unsubscribe and get out of this really quickly. But because we scale, there are expectations of competence, of reliability. That doesn't mean that you don't expect that of small business. You're just ready to give them a lot more grace. So small businesses can and should capitalize on that. And that is in that season when they are still, it's a solo person still working, but you just have one or two people within the employ. It's that time that you can build systems. It's in that time that you can build that foundational structure. So it's in that time that you can also create some sort of being a differentiator where you're not just how all of the other small businesses that make mistakes will be. You're kind of building a system that works, that is seamless. And you know that your audience will give you a bit more grace. So you have a bit of leeway to be flexible, a bit of leeway to make your mistakes and quickly recover. So there's so much grace that exists within that space, and there's so much you can do there. And I don't think small businesses realize that you have so much that you can work with in terms of empathy. Yes, some people will definitely not get into that and will get out of being your customers, and that's fine. But then with the people you have, you just keep building and creating that level of structure, that foundation that as you grow, because I don't imagine that small businesses want to be small forever, but as you grow, you know that within the time, within the few years when you were small, you built something that was very foundational and very good.
I have an experience on the other way where I chose a smaller company when I was moving up to the island here. I chose a smaller company. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna give them grace, like it's all good. But I like that you emphasize that companies need to capitalize on being human, because my experience was they lost their stuff or their truck broke down. They didn't notify us that the truck broke down. They just, oh, it's on its way, and extended out the timeline. And I told them, I'm like, had you told us exactly what was
What
going on at the
yeah.
time, I would have given you more grace than now, where I'm 3 weeks out and I'm just getting this information. Be upfront with your customers. Be candid, because that's what shows your humanity. Like, you're not a superhuman company. You're doing this with
No.
a few people, and you're just trying to establish a community around that. And that goes a long way. Like, I wrote a few reviews on that company, and I hope they change. But
Good or
it's
bad.
the yeah, this is how the impacts, right? And this is, I think, this time right now we want humanity more than ever.
Yes.
So capitalizing on that is a good thing.
People are looking for community, and I'm sure you must have seen the rise of a ton of communities. So there are communities about everything. Just me, I'm in a community of women in CX, right? You know, so this community about everything. People want to find others who are like people want to find people like them. Community of new dads, new moms, community of say a certain age category, community of people who like a certain type of music, community of people who are, fans of a certain people. But there are communities around everything. So in I think in this day and age where there's also so much technology that it's possible for us to be very isolated. We're now seeing the rise of community, and hey, COVID kind of took that to a new level. Just being isolated at home for God knows how long the lockdown was at that time, just realized that you actually want people, right? You want people not just digitally, but also physically. You want to be able to go and grab a cup of coffee with someone. You want to be able to go and have a good laugh with friends and family, or even people you don't know, but you just have similar interests, right? And then you get to know them. So there is a rise of community in this day and age, and it's beautiful.
Yes. I think back to the time when my grandfather was still talking to me and saying, network, network, network. You've got a network. And I never took it seriously. And now I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to network. And I get to meet amazing people like yourself. And it's eye opening what you get to experience and who you get to connect with. It's funny because when people reach out to me now, hey, I have this problem. I now have connections to say, hey, like, let me go talk to this person. And I think we're getting more to that. I think we want to have more of a society. Kind of goes into the kill the script philosophy that you have. Most small business owners don't have a formal script, but they think they might be missing deeper points. What are you really talking about when you say killing the script?
I think when I put that out, or when I wrote that out, because at the time there was a scenario around it. I was taking my son for a swimming class, and for some reason, which was my fault. So I don't blame the business at all. It was my fault. I forgot to top up the utility card that I use for payments. And so I missed that payment. And then I was on road, it was suspense class, and I was going and all, but I was very happy about that. And I got out and I realized, because I mean at home there's Wi-Fi. I got out and realized that I don't have any mobile data on my phone. And obviously that's a bit of a catastrophe, right? So there's a lot of information I needed to see, things like, where to the entrance location, all of those kind of things were sent by email. And I had no idea what it was. Because I mean it was my first time going there. And I called these guys to say, hey, I need an error. I've got to top up. Please could you just get me back on, you know, the internet? And they read out a script. Oh, do you want to upgrade? Do you want to do this? Do you want to? No, I don't want to do anything. I just need to be connected. And it was just a ramble of things. But they really needed to go through that entire script before getting to what I needed. And I was pretty upset. This is ridiculous. I, I am calling you because this is the need. I have admitted my mistake, because I'm not going to push that on you and say that, hey, you guys were wrong. I was wrong. I've admitted my mistake. Please, can we resolve this very quickly, right? And then you have to go through your own process first before getting into, mine. And I thought I thought this is not ridiculous. Makes no sense. So yes, when I was thinking about killing the scripts, I understand that businesses need to have structure. I understand that businesses obviously need to go through certain routes and things. Also, there is a legal backing and legal reasons why they have to go through some things. And you also things like, oh, this is coded call for training and whatever purposes and all of this kind of things, right? But when we are so wedded to scripts that we cannot take on the humanity and the empathy needed for each call and treat it in its individual basis, then there's a problem. So the script is there and should be there as some sort of guide, but you cannot always be wedded to it, where you cannot go out of it to solve individual issues and matters. So the problem with scripts is that they have become set in stone to the point where people who are on the support side have no autonomy to go out of those scripts. And like I said, there's no problem with scripts. They are there as a guide, but they mustn't become so set in stone that the team cannot make judgment calls. In that moment, I needed whoever was on the other end of the line to make a judgment call and quickly resolve it. So after going through that entire ramble, they eventually resolved it. But we could have been done in a minute or two. But yeah, I'm 10 minutes in and we're still going back and forth. It's ridiculous, right? So
Yeah, that's why
yeah,
you have 3 hour wait times and
Yeah, because somebody has to go to the script, and then the other person, the customer is upset. Like, look at so that back and forth can be avoided. But then you don't really see that with small businesses. You see that with the larger enterprise. With small businesses, the people go, you sort out whatever you need to sort out, and they're off, and they kind of update it, and it's quick. So what I was saying about there is a certain level of grace with smaller businesses where they also have that room to create structure. So yes, even if they do want to create scripts, they know that theirs is just some sort of guide. But with the larger ones, they have clear cut scripts that have to ramble. So is that is how they have removed the autonomy, how those people on the other end, and I do have some level of empathy for them because obviously they are doing their jobs and this is what is required. So it isn't their fault. It is a system that they are working with that they have to follow. Right. So when there are support teams, call center teams, and things like that that have just very strict scripts that there's no leeway, there's no room for flexibility, then hey, that's a problem.
I can imagine the amount of burnout of call centers if call centers were actually just humans trying to fix the problems of people calling in. Because you'd have not only just people trying to help people, you'd also have the other side knowing that they're trying to help and not getting angry because they're trying to help. That was one of the reasons I didn't go into IT was because I hated people yelling at me for them breaking their own computer.
And half of the time is a human error. So
Right.
you're trying to always solve human errors. And human errors can be as funny as, did you turn on your computer? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to plug it. It has run out of battery.
And yeah, the fun questions. I do want to get into the trust aspect of your philosophy. You say that trust is the currency of the future. How do you actually break that down as an actual currency? Like, are you talking physical or just like what am I trying to say here? Trust is the currency of the future. How does it translate to actually building currency?
So yeah, obviously it's not physical currency. So before if it was physical currency. I think that we sleep in a society that doesn't have a lot of trust. So there are high trust societies and there are low trust societies. And in some instances we see an overlap, say in brands that are high trust and brands that are low trust. But in building businesses and building relationships with customers, there will be a level of trust that you must build. And the example you did give was a fantastic one of, hey, you had a problem, should have told me, and I would have responded XYZ accordingly. Now, in that scenario, they have eroded trust. So I'm not going to trust you to be able to move my things and get it to point A or point B in the agreed amount of time anymore. I'm not going to be able to refer you to somebody else who is moving or things like that. So trust is the currency of the future, and going hand in hand with trust is transparency. So where there's trust, there is a level of transparency that has been experienced. So when you see trust, you usually see transparency. You also would see that people will, in this case, customers want to be carried along. So I want to know if there's a problem. And I may have said this on I haven't said it on this podcast, but I may have said this on another podcast that when you have things like bad reviews, they are a good thing. And it sounds like it contradicts itself, but it doesn't. Because in that moment, something was broken and somebody told you. Because usually customers do not tell you when they have a bad experience. They don't tell the brand. More often than not, they don't. They would rant to someone else.
Yeah.
They would rant on social media. They would rant everywhere else but the Shiranto, which is the brand. And I mean, I do it, you do it, we all do it, right? But when you think of one person who has taken the pains to tell you that something was wrong, that is a level of trust that has been broken, and that person is communicating that. So, in solving that one person's problem, you will, in some way, solve multiple problems of multiple people without realizing it because those people who have left most likely have the same problem and never told you the same.
That's the reason I did it. It's just because I'm like, it would have taken 2 seconds. I know you don't mean it. Like you were trying to do my best by me, but the fact that you hit it hurt me. And I couldn't say that, but I've also become this person that doesn't. I don't want to not stand up for things anymore. I feel like a lot of our society has taken a step back and doesn't stand up for what they believe in anymore. And I've taken a lot of steps towards being more vocal about my opinions.
Like I said, people are exhausted, so
Yeah, yeah. The exhaustion is a lot, but to me, I just try and put it in insight. Like I don't like to be insulting. And people insult me all the time, but I like to just kind of say like, here's my piece. Here's why I felt this way. Here's what you could have done to do better. Hopefully, the next guy has a better experience.
yeah.
Like it's just having that. I think we also, as people, need to understand that the people on the other side are also human, and that just having it feels bad, like because it's a confrontational conversation, but without those you don't grow. Nobody grows.
Yeah, but I mean, you must think that of this also that not all societies are confrontational, and to be able to also give say negative feedback in some way that is confrontation, and you wouldn't see some people do that who are non-confrontational. So again, you now think of people's temperaments coming to play. You also think of the society they exist in, cultures. Culturally, not all cultures are confrontational. Some are very, sober and will let things slide, will maybe be passive aggressive at most, but will not tell you head on, okay, this is a challenge. So when you think about all of those things that come to play, so whether it's societal, whether it's cultural, whether it's personal, you now begin to see why people would not tell you, oh, there is a problem. So when you have a lone wolf come out to say, oh, this is a problem, always assume that multiple other people who have not mentioned are also expressing this problem. There's a reason why I said a negative is always a good thing because it helps you solve what multiple people haven't told you.
It actually also you talked about the that people will post on like social media to complain about it. And I know you have a connection with Microsoft, but they used to have a platform 2016, I think, called Microsoft Social Engagement, where you could track your business tags across platforms. Are there things still like that out there?
There are, I think there are solutions like that out there because, I mean, you see brands respond to mentions without actually mentioning them. So social engagement platforms still exist. So if I go and say Apple without using the at sign on any platform, Apple
Yeah, well,
most likely could respond to that. So those platforms still exist. They haven't gone. They could all be called different things, and you will see the rise of different platforms for different size businesses still come up. But yeah, they're still there. Sure, you see it happening all the time. So yeah, they're definitely still there.
I think it would be good for some smaller teams. Like if you're not getting reviews and things, it just might be good to like have a tool to kind of look into it and just be like, hey, is there anything that I can fix that I don't know of yet? It might be a good experience to just try and be proactive about it. But again, it could just be that nobody's talking about business because they're not getting a whole lot of stuff.
That's true too. That's true.
So, looking ahead, what is one thing that people can do tomorrow to start improving customer experience?
Ooh, what's this
Sorry
one
for a
thing
big
you can do
question.
tomorrow? Tomorrow, looking ahead. So you cannot ignore the presence of AI. To ignore that would be funny. Right. So you can't ignore that. And AI will change a lot of things. So you want to be able to introduce that to handle the routine flows. So things that are generic, things that are routine, right? So you want to have AI handle that. So you want to also so firms that kind of like pair automation with human handoffs. You want to have a part of that generic system that you built where there is a handoff to a human. And I think in some ways, and we may have experience where you are dealing with your bots, there's no handoff to a human. So one thing you can do tomorrow is look at your system. and see whether you have built a system where, especially if you're doing any form of automation, you have done any form of automation where there's no exit to a human. And if the exit to a human exists, when you've made it so cumbersome to get to it, go back and make it easier.
Mhm.
While some people would always just want to go straight to a human without looking at all of the other options, you would have people who would actually look at those options. So yes, that's one thing you want to do. One is don't ignore the fact that AI is here to stay. We are in a new revolution. It is almost like an ostrich sticking its head in the sand. Can't run away from it. It's here. Secondly, that handoff to a human, I always think is very critical. And I see that a lot of businesses don't have that in terms of from a bot to a human. Look at that. What else? So those two are very top of mind. Are things that you can kind of get into. And when I talk about AI, you literally can search and look at the things that you are doing that are very generic. Can I throw this out? Can I have a daily summary of all of my emails if you're very email heavy in terms of the things that come in? Do I want to get a summary of all of them by the end of the day? Right? Or do I want to things like posting out on social media? Can I obviously automate that if I need to do that? And that automation happens for the entire week. And I just sort that out for my business at the start of the week or say at the end of the weekend. And that's sorted for the week. I don't have to do every day to do that. So there are bits and pieces of your business, and every business will be different. And the things that are generic to you will be different. But look at those bits that are generic. Can you chop them out? Can you have some sort of automation, sort them out so you kind of can free up time to do the actual work? So those two, I think we can start with that.
Okay, that's good because I like that you phrased it as freeing up the work because that's ultimately why you started your business. Is you wanted to do the fun parts, not the administration stuff that comes along with it.
I think anybody likes the administration part of it. It's always very cumbersome.
Very fair. So, is there anything coming up for you, or where can people find you? I want my listeners to be able to get a hold of you if they need you, and I'll make sure it's all
Yes,
down below.
you can find me two places on LinkedIn. Actually, I'm on other platforms, but I only say LinkedIn because I'm a fly on the wall on other platforms. So I'm there, but I'm not really there.
Yep.
So LinkedIn, my name, Abisola Fagbiye, spelled Abisola. Fagbiye is spelled Fagbiye. Same thing on my website. It's also at solafagbiye.com. So on either of those platforms, whether you send through me a message, I would respond. Enjoy customer phone. So I would respond whether you reach out on LinkedIn or you reach out from the website. Those are places that I am. So what am I looking to do? Definitely one of the things I had to do or started looking to do was to be on podcast. So I am doing one of the things I've wanted to do very recently. I'm also looking to just speak a lot more
Mhm.
because I'm seeing CX from very different lenses and from lenses of it being an arts. I think there's such a beauty to it. So it's absolutely beautiful. I'm seeing it from those lenses. I'm also seeing CX from the point where people are not getting into it accidentally. I got into it accidentally and a ton of other people did. So how do we look at it from you're intentionally going into this space? There are kind of not so many, but there are kind of structured courses around this. I do have a professional diploma in customer experience from the CX Academy. But just really looking at CX from, hey, from that structure of going into it consciously, from the structure of it being the beautiful art, from let us look at CX from not just, hey, customer support as a one touch interaction, but the entire journey. And that's why I say it's an art, but that entire journey of awareness or coming to know that you exist all the way and the different layers of CX, whether it's a boarding that's a part of it, whether it's change management, whether it says the support or the success, all of those parts, adoption, right? So there are many layers of CX that I'm saying that I really want to talk about. So I am looking to speak a lot more and eventually go back into the workforce. I really don't want to be so detached from just speaking, detached from actually talking to customers. So looking to go back. So I am currently on maternity leave, so I am going back to work very soon, right? So just going back in and enjoying that daily interaction. Yesterday was CX Day, and so I put out a post that said, in the many layers, it is a highlight of my day to talk to customers. So whatever I'm doing, whether I'm training, whether I'm doing change my whatever, it's the highlight of my work day when I go in and I have to talk to customers. So honestly, looking to go back to that and just enjoy that.
It very much sounds like you love every bit of it. And for my audience there, it's October 7th. So we're recording on October 8th right now. So CX Day is October 7th. And
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming on. It was a very great conversation. And I'll make sure
Thank you.
I'll put in wherever your next podcast is at the time. I believe we'll be releasing this around mid-November. So, yeah. Anyways, to all of my audience out there, stay weird.